of Sri Lankans out there. Firstly is to build up your contacts within that country. That is the most important thing. If you have no contact, you are not going anywhere. And that's what I want you all to start with. The big change is going to be the International Trade Office. The Department of Commerce will be replaced by the International Trade Office because a lot of your work in many areas pertain to trade. So International Trade Office will be an important part of this. So one by one, each of you will have a different objective. So how do we expand our trade and investment and tourism? There we have to start building up our relationships, economic and political.
See you soon with more stories after this short commercial break.
IWS Aviation.
Welcome back here with State of Business. Addressing Parliament recently, Prime Minister Dinesh Gunawardena called on all parties to join hands in working to develop the country and well-being of the people. Prime Minister Gunawardena stressed that this should be achieved by strengthening the rural economy.
ඉදිරි වසර හැටියට අප මේ අභියෝග ජයගත හැකි වසරක් බවට පරිවර්තනය කිරීමට කැපවී කටයුතු කිරීමට රජයේ වශයෙන්ුත් පාර්ලිමේන්තුව වශයෙන්ුත් එක්සත්ව එකමුතුවෙන් කටයුතු කිරීමේ අවස්ථාව සඳහා එකට වැඩ කිරීමේ අභිලාෂය මේ අවස්ථාවේ යලිත් ප්‍රකාශ කර සිටිනවා. ඒ වෙනුවෙන් මේ අවස්ථාවේදී නව අවුරුද්ද වෙනුවෙන් සුභාශිංසන පමණක් නොව සකල විද අභියෝග රැසක් අභිමුව වඩ වඩාත් යහපත් රටක් ගොඩනගන්නට අප කැපවී කටයුතු කරමු. විශේෂයෙන් ආහාර සුරක්ෂිතභාවය හා ග්‍රාමීය ආර්ථික පුනර්ජීවනය උදෙසා ප්‍රමුඛත්වය දෙමින් අනෙක් සෑම අංශයක් සඳහා වූ සංවර්ධනාත්මක ව්‍යායාමයන් තුළ සක්‍රියව කටයුතු කරමු. ජන ජීවිතයට බලපාන දේශීය ආර්ථිකය ශක්තිමත් කිරීම සඳහා වන උපාය මාර්ග තුළ කටයුතු කරමින් නව වසරේ වඩාත් සුබදායි රටක් ගොඩනැගීමේ රටවැසි ජනතාවගේ ඒ බලාපොරොත්තුව සමග එකට අත්වැල් බැඳගෙන වැඩ කරන්නට රජය වෙනුවෙන් යලිත් අපි ආයාචනය කරනවා.
Meanwhile, Fitch Ratings' deteriorating 2023 sector outlook for global sovereigns reflect weaker global economic growth, rising funding costs and pressures from high inflation. The overall balance of sovereign ratings outlooks is near to its long-term average, but further monetary policy tightening and elevated geopolitical tensions represent key challenges this year. 5 of 8 sovereign regions have deteriorating outlooks: North America, Western Europe, Emerging Europe, Sub-Saharan Africa and Asia-Pacific. This indicates that underlying sovereign credit conditions will be less supportive over the coming year than in 2022. The fiscal benefit of inflation on government revenues and nominal growth will fade as spending pressures mount, with higher interest rates pushing up debt service costs and dragging on growth. Weaker growth in the US and the Eurozone will weigh on other regions. The shares of the Fitch Global Sovereign Portfolio on negative and positive outlook are near long-term averages of 15% and 10% respectively. The net outlook balance is negative at -4 but has recovered since the pandemic triggered sovereign rating pressures in the first half of 2020. This is partly because several outlooks have stabilized following the pandemic and because the share of sovereigns rated CCC+ to restricted default, where outlooks are not typically assigned, has risen. The strong post-COVID rebound in economic growth and tax revenues persisted into the second half of 2022, creating additional fiscal space for some policy measures to offset spillovers from Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Sovereigns will have to navigate challenging conditions in in 2023, still high geopolitical risks mean policy decisions might be guided by non-economic considerations, leading to suboptimal trade and investment outcomes. Tighter global monetary policy could expose risks that were hidden while central banks kept borrowing costs low. Now, accessing international bond markets will remain challenging for some smaller emerging markets, but this is reflected in already low sovereign ratings. Higher ratings are generally more resilient to shocks and policy-induced deviations in the credit profiles, but investment-grade sovereigns account for about two-thirds of negative outlooks. The global net outlook balance was stronger for emerging markets than for developed market sovereigns at end 2022. This is because discretionary policy responses to higher energy prices are more prevalent among developed market and higher-rated sovereigns. Regionally, net outlook balances range from -4 in emerging Europe to +1 in both the Middle East and North Africa and Sub-Saharan Africa. Emerging Europe is the only region where the balance became more negative in 2022. This region is exposed to Russia-Ukraine spillovers, the energy crisis, and a weaker Eurozone economy will feed into slower growth, pressuring public finances alongside higher local currency funding costs. Weaker growth and fiscal prospects stemming from the energy crisis are important factors in Western Europe's -2 outlook balance. Sub-Saharan Africa's positive net balance follows Kenya's downgrade to B stable from B+, negative last month, but the region was the highest proportion of sovereigns rated CCC+ to restricted default. Middle East and North Africa has a positive net outlook balance and is one of three with neutral sector outlooks, as hydrocarbon exporters should mostly benefit from another year of fiscal and external surpluses. Greater China and Latin America also have neutral sovereign sector outlooks and both have net balances of zero. Sino-US tensions are risk factors for Greater China. Domestic political uncertainty is a risk for several Latin American sovereigns, although proactive monetary tightening, steady external buffers and flexible exchange rates should generally support sovereign creditworthiness. Stay tuned for the stock updates. Welcome back, here with State of Business. Now the stock update. Trading at Colombo Stock Exchange ended on negative notes today. The All-Share Price Index dropped 12.91 points to close at 8,367.69 and the S&P SL 20 dropped 15.54 points to close at 2,565.33. The turnover was 1.8 billion rupees and over 95 million shares were traded. Coming up next are Forex rates. Well, that's a wrap from today's edition of State of Business. For this and more, subscribe to our channel on YouTube and follow us on Facebook. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.
State of Business was sponsored by